All right, guys, today's episode is with Jared DeValk. He has blessed me with coming on and doing a little bit of a tech training here related to Google Analytics. I know that you guys have been asking for this and really need some help here. So he has been gracious enough to come in and teach us a little something today. How are you doing, Jared?
I'm living the dream, Dana. How about yourself?
I'm doing just fine, just fine. All right. So, will you want to tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what makes you a specialist in Google Analytics?
So, I have owned, started, sold businesses in the past, and one of the things that I noticed that was the common denominator where my passion lied was the marketing. And
Mm-hmm.
even I used to be in real estate, and I would even use SEO to drive leads for my real estate business.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I've worked for agencies as a consultant for them, consulting business owners on how to market online properly, and mostly that was with their website, with SEO, with Google Ads, with social media, with display retargeting, with video advertising.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm a specialist in Google Ads or Google Analytics. I've spent a lot of time on the back end of Google Analytics, interpreting traffic and conversions for my customers and helping them to improve the lead flow that they have coming
Mm-hmm.
in.
Yeah, that's fabulous. You're who we need. You're who we
Perfect.
need. So Devin, I'm gonna let you jump right in, and Jared and I talked earlier, and I'm gonna pepper him with some questions as he's talking, as we normally do here on Organized Holistically. But Jared, just take it away. It's all yours.
Sounds good. So one of the we're going to jump right into looking into an analytics account. So this account is one that is actually a separate business that I have. It's a home maintenance business, um, and um, when you first get on analytics, you see all this stuff here. So if you go here, you can see stuff in real time. You can see, audience information, acquisition, behavior, conversions. Um, Really, the first area that you need to start with when you're talking about analytics, it doesn't even have to do with analytics itself. It has to do with what are the target KPIs or key performance indicators that are important to your business. Google Analytics has a ton of features on the back end for e-commerce businesses. Well, if you're not an e-commerce business, you don't need to be messing with those details. You don't
Mm-hmm.
need to get off in the weeds where you don't need to be.
Right.
Um, well, on the other hand, if you are an e-commerce business, there's so many things you can use on the back end to help with increasing conversions, increasing sales from your organic and your paid advertising campaigns. Um, so really writing down 5 to 10 indicators that are relevant to your business, that's going to be the first place to start. And once you've written those down, then you can start to jump in here. With setting up analytics is probably going to be the first place that you're going to start. You've set up your website, and when you go to link Google Analytics with your website, it's actually going to be done on the domain level. So you're going to have access to your website address. I use GoDaddy. It's just easier, and everybody's familiar with it. And they make it really simple to connect these accounts.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times you can really just log in directly in Google Analytics, and it'll connect it for you. It'll put that what they
Mm-hmm.
call a text record in GoDaddy, so that way Google Analytics actually knows, okay, you own this website. We can actually track the information on this. So they want to make sure that you legitimately have access to this website before they start giving you all the details.
Right.
So you'll use GoDaddy or whatever your domain provider is to connect Google Analytics and your website together. And then the next step is something that a lot of people overlook, but when it comes to your SEO and how you show up on Google, and for those that don't know, SEO is search engine optimization, and in layman's terms, that's getting you to show up better on Google and other websites like Bing or any of those search engines. So we're going to go over to the admin side. And then once you get to the admin side, we're going to go over to your property settings. And once you go down to your properties, or once you get in your property settings, you're going to go down to the area called Search Console. And you'll click the little button that says Adjust Search Console. Now on mine, it's already connected. But if you don't have it connected, it'll have a link to go to your Search Console. I'm going to pull it up here so you can see what it looks like.
And so you're doing this after you have connected to your website?
That is correct.
Okay.
This is the next thing you need to do. And so now we're in Handy Andy Repair. What Search Console does, it allows you to track the actual search terms that people are searching to find your website. Not just the keywords, the actual search terms.
So what they are typing in the Google box.
That's correct. So if we go back to, so I'm jumping back onto Google Analytics, going to Home, going down to Acquisition. So for me, I work with a lot of service-based businesses. So think contractors, attorneys, the medical profession, consulting, anything where someone's providing a service. Most of my time is being spent in the acquisition side. So under acquisition, they have a little tab called Search Console. You'll click that, and it will bring up, and you go to queries, it will bring up what people are actually searching for whenever they find it. So I'm going to show you, we'll just do 100. So these are different search terms, and you can break this down by day, week, month, different time ranges. So, let's go and look for since April and see how my website has popped up. So whenever someone has searched for Handy Andy Nashville on Google, my website has been clicked 50 times. Then if we go over to impressions is the number of times that someone has seen your ad or the link to your website. So I'm going to go over here and we'll just do that, Handy Andy Nashville. So this would count as one impression for Handy Andy Nashville. If I didn't click that, they wouldn't count the click, but they will count the fact that my website showed up in the Google search engine result page. That's what they call this page that we're looking at, or for a shorter acronym, it's SERP, S-E-R-P.
Okay.
So on this page, if I don't click on it, it will still count for Handy Andy Nashville. It will count as an impression, but it won't count as a click. So when you combine your clicks and impressions, you come up with a ratio called your click-through rate, or CTR. That's this column. So that's your CTR is a ratio of how many times your website was seen in those search engine result pages versus how many times it was actually clicked. That's very important because you want to make sure that the data that we put in this field right here is attracting people to come to your website. So this click-through rate, we could probably do something to get that higher, especially since somebody is actually looking for my business.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't done a whole lot of work on this business because this is more of a side business for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I've had this business since 2017. And all my leads have exclusively come from SEO. I have done zero paid advertising for this business. So going in here and connecting your search console and looking at the search queries, this is where you're going to be able to drive a lot of your SEO results, because again, you're seeing exactly what people are searching for.
And so the goal is the goal to take like all of these things, door repair Nashville. If you want to start ranking for that more, you just start using that more in blog posts and different things that you're posting on your website. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. So whenever you're determining your SEO strategy, these terms are super important because Google wants to provide people with solutions to their problems. And looking at what they're actually searching for, you want to use their language. You want to speak their language when trying to solve their problems.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, marketing is not about us as the business. We are not the heroes in this story. We are the guides. We are trying to connect or at least in the marketing industry, like I said, we're trying to connect the hero, which is the business owner, with the customer, who's the damsel in distress, to put it in kind of like a Hollywood movie
Right.
picture. There's actually a man, Donald Miller. He's actually in Franklin, Tennessee. He wrote a really good book called The Story Brand, and that's kind of the framework that he teaches to a lot of marketers on how to design your messaging and your story. But you want to speak their language because they're actually going on and saying, I need this service. And if these keywords match up to services that you offer, then great. We want to see how can we improve our click-through rate, and how can we improve the number of times we've been seen. Like garbage disposal repair Nashville, we received 5 clicks, but there was 344 impressions for it. So my click-through rate is really low on that. It's 1.45%. And then, you can go in here and it'll even show you the average position. So the average position is where you show up on average. So if I go back to Handy Andy Nashville, the Google search, one of the things I want to point out is if you're looking, do you see how Handy Andy Nashville says that my average position is 3.4?
Mm-hmm.
What's my position when you're looking at the search engine result page?
You're the top 2.
Correct. One of the reasons why that is this: Google takes into account all the searches that you've done. They take into account all the websites you visited. They know that I'm the owner of Handy Andy Repair. You can even see it right here. It says you manage this business profile. So when I look for Handy Andy Nashville, Google's thinking, or their algorithm is thinking, he probably wants to see more stuff about his business. So we're going to show him stuff about his business. If you really want to see a good, unadulterated look on how you show up for different search results, one of the things you need to do on Chrome, you need to open up what's called an incognito window.
Yeah.
Right. And because when I was at the previous agency I was at, I did a lot of cold calling, and I would call business owners and tell them that they weren't showing up on Google, and it was legitimate. I would type in plumbers Nashville or HVAC replacement Nashville, and I didn't bother with calling people on the first page. I'd call everybody that was on the second page and every page after that, and they would tell me right on the phone, well, when I do the search, I show up on the first page. Well, of course, because you're doing it from your location, from your computer or phone, where you've probably been to your website multiple times, Google is going to show you up more. So this is going to give you a little bit more of an accurate look on how you actually show up for different search terms. So
that's good. That's good.
So you can spend a lot of time in here and get a lot of good information. You can also not only to target the keywords that are going to bring you customers, you can also look in here and see what keywords do we not want to focus on? What services do we not want to do? Case in point, let me look through here. And
so do you do French door installation?
I do.
Okay.
We do. However, furniture assembly, it is a service that we offer. It is not one that I want to market heavily. It doesn't take a lot of skill or expertise to assemble furniture, and it's not a very high profit margin job for us. Versus garbage disposals are a very good service for us. It's a good profit margin. Customers don't like to fool with them, so they're more than happy to pay us. And when your garbage disposal goes out, a lot of times your sink's blocked up. So we'll come into houses quite often where there's dishes piled up and there's water standing in the sink, and we have to figure out how to fix their garbage disposal with all that. And so they need to get it fixed pretty fast. Whereas, if you want to get some furniture assembled, it's a low profit margin task, and it's not something that's super important that people are concerned about.
Right.
Versus, like you said, French door installation, very great profit margin on that for us, and any kind of door replacement or door repair. As you can see, those are the searches that, next to the some of the more brand name searches, we show up for those, and that's something that we're constantly trying to improve on. So
if we're not wanting, I'm sorry, because I think I messed up your thought process. If we don't want to show up for specific search options, is there something that we can do to, other than just not using those words in our things, in our blog posts and stuff?
That's the best thing you can do.
Okay.
Is make sure that you're not using those keywords as much.
Gotcha.
Or you're focusing on other keywords. Now, at the end of the day, Google is the way that you can think about with how SEO works is you have this pond, and if there is a bunch of fish in the pond, aka there's a bunch of searches, and there's not very many people fishing for those, or businesses trying to advertise for those searches, then you're probably going to catch a whole bunch of fish, and you're probably going to get some fish that you don't want, but you're going to catch a bunch of fish. We get a lot of traffic on this from our SEO. Now, that being said, if you have more people come to the pond, then more of the more in-demand fish, well, they're going to be caught because people are going to actually try to use special lures and special tactics to catch those fish, and you're going to get more of the high value fish are going to be taken, leaving the lower value fish left over for everyone else to have. So
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, Google's going to send traffic to your site, and you may not want them to, but they're going to send it anyways. What we're trying to do is tell Google who we'd prefer to come to our website with our
Mm-hmm.
content, with our citations that we have all throughout the internet, with our advertising. We're going to do our best to try to tell Google this is the type of person that we want to
Right.
come.
Awesome.
So we so that was setting up Search Console,
Mm-hmm.
and how important that is. You're not going to spend a whole lot of time on the back end of Search Console. You're mainly going to spend, especially for those who aren't marketers and who are entrepreneurs, um, the only real time you're going to spend back here is when you set it up initially. And one of the things I always like to point out, it's very important that when you set up your property in Search Console, you set it up with the URL prefix and not the domain property and not the domain prefix. There will be two options that pop up. One will say domain and one will say URL prefix. The domain will just have the domain name, so handyandyrepair.com, whereas the URL prefix will have the full HTTPS, and have all that www. It'll have all that in there. It's super important. Google Analytics, you won't be able to go in here and see all this content in here and connect it with Google Analytics if you don't set it up this way.
Mm.
So that's super important to remember when you're setting this up. So that's really the main things that you have to do when it comes to setting up analytics with your website. There's a bunch of other things you can do as far as setting up conversion tracking, and Google even has a product called Google Tag Manager that will enable you to set up different tags and triggers so you can actually keep track of certain events that happen on your website. So if you set a like Dana, you've got courses on your website. Maybe you wanted to create a tag that tracks all of the people that sign up for your courses. Well, you can create a specific tag that follows those people that are clicking on those specific links and not any other links on the website. So you can segment your data and really be able to make quicker decisions when it comes to advertising your business. So, so now that we've talked a bunch about Search Console and setting that up, I'm going to go to the overview page of acquisition. Again, this is where most people, especially if you're not an advanced marketer, where you're going to spend most of your time. This highlights the top channels that are bringing you your traffic. So, like organic search, you can actually break it down and it'll talk about, where you're getting your traffic from organic search. Let me change the date on this. And so it'll go in and tell more about specific keywords, especially your higher volume keywords and the ones you're tracking.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to go back to channels because again, this is kind of covered under the Search Console side of things.
Okay.
But it'll also break it down by, so you've got organic search, you have direct. So direct is when someone is actually searching for your business name and how many times they click on your website. And typically we've found that your direct traffic there is a high bounce rate with it. And for those that don't know, bounce rate is the percentage of how many times someone comes to your website and leaves without taking any action. Bounce is a dirty word in the marketing industry because that means, because anytime someone bounces off your website, that's a lost lead. At the company I work at now, we offer, full-scale branding services, and one of the things we offer is direct mail as one of our services. We actually have even created a whole product that will track people on the website, and even if they don't take any action, we'll still grab their IP address, turn that into a lead, and send them a direct mail piece. Yeah, so it's great because if they came to your website, they came to your website for a reason. It may have just been to check your company out. It may have actually been because they're interested in services that you offer. Well, if they came to that website, especially if it's from a paid advertising campaign, we want to try to get them back into your marketing funnel as quickly as possible. So that's why,
so really bounce is just, they've come to the website, they've looked around, they just haven't clicked on anything, or?
Correct. They came to the home page and for some reason they left without either starting a chat or filling out a form or calling or texting or going to another page as well. So if they didn't do any of those actions or click anything on your website and they leave, that's a bounce.
Okay.
And then of course you can track social. If you're running paid advertising campaigns, again, I told you I've never run any paid advertising campaigns. It'll actually show you. I'll pull up another account that we're managing right now.
So if you have, while you're doing that, if you have a one-page website, theoretically, you're probably going to have a high bounce rate because if there's nothing clickable on it and it's really just here's my business, here's the contact information, unless they call from your website, it's going to probably have a high bounce rate, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. If you don't have any place for someone to go, most of the time when someone has a one-page website, those are landing pages that people use for paid advertising, and for some reason they don't want their traffic, or they don't have a reason to, or they don't want people to come to their actual full company website. Let me pull up another one because this is actually one that is, here we go.
Yeah, because I know a lot of my clients, they are new to, websites are brand new, or they're just getting into their business. So they just want a location on the web right now, but they haven't really built it out. But if they add a form or a newsletter box or something like that, that will help potentially keep that bounce rate down because somebody can take an action on the site.
Correct. That you're 100% correct. If you just have a website that just has your phone number, contact information, obviously Google is not going to be, if you don't set it up properly and you just have that information in a text format and it's not clickable or there's not another page, then you're going to have an extremely high bounce rate. So it would be good. I normally advise people to, when you're setting up a website, if you want to set up a basic bare bones website, do your home page, do an about page, and do a contact page.
Most definitely. That's exactly what I tell them. Yeah.
That's it. And then after that, you can build out a service or product offering page, and build out from there. But you need those three websites because those three pages, because those three pages are super important when it comes to your SEO and how you show up.
And really just branding your business in general. Who are you, right?
Yeah. So, those are really, this is the main area where you're going to spend your time. You can go I mean, Google Analytics allows you to track a lot of stuff. Like you can check how's your site content performing, what's the speed of your site. It'll go into, so if we go over to audience, you can actually get user demographics of the people that are visiting your website. So you can find out like how many men and women are visiting my website versus or what are the age of the people that are visiting my website.
Yeah.
And those are important when you've already established your website and you've got some paid advertising campaigns and you're really trying to discover who your target demographics are, so then you can start formulating the right messaging and the right
Mm-hmm.
marketing strategy to go after those specifically.
Yeah. Yeah, I found that area very helpful for me in just figuring out, I thought my target audience was one group of people. And then when I started looking at the Google Analytics the demographic information, it was very interesting to see that it was actually trending a little older than I initially thought. So that was really helpful just from a targeting standpoint.
Exactly. And anytime you can get that information, people pay a lot of money to get access to customer demographics. You know, and it's all out there. I mean, the data's out there. It's just that, as a entrepreneur, you don't necessarily have access to that information unless you pay to have access to that information. So if you have a website that's established and you're able to set up analytics on the website, then you can start to collect that information on your own and start
Mm-hmm.
to split test and formulate your own campaigns based off that.
Nice.
The other thing is if you want to dive more into Google Analytics, they actually have something called the Google Analytics Academy,
Mm-hmm.
where you can watch step-by-step tutorials on different areas of Google Analytics, so that way you can actually see how to set up um, certain tracking indicators and try to understand your demographics and everything related to that. You can also watch a lot on Google Analytics YouTube channel. They've got a lot of great information on there that just walks you through step by step on how to do certain things.
That's good. Yeah, because that's the other thing that I get the question of, well, how do you even begin to learn all the different ins and outs of different software and different things like that? And I'm like, you really just have to dig into YouTube is my friend, right? I'm like,
Yes,
if I need
YouTube
to
and
figure out,
Google.
yes, YouTube and Google, those are the two places that I pretty much go to first to just try to figure out and really break down the information of how to use different things.
And and that's really when it comes down to it, is as long as you understand your business and you understand what those key indicators are,
Mm-hmm.
um, you can build everything else out from there. Google Analytics, it seems like there's a lot of information on here,
Mm-hmm.
but when you start diving into it and you start doing your research, um, there's certain areas that you'll never, there's certain areas of Google Analytics you'll never spend your time in. I hardly ever spend my time in the real-time area. That that's only gonna that's really going to come into play when you have um, a ton of traffic coming in, and you really need to get data on the real-time users on your specific website. Um, and again, the acquisition channel is where most of us are going to spend our time, because being entrepreneurs and starting out, we are obsessed with generating revenue and
Mm-hmm.
developing the business. And this is the area where you're going to be able to do that. You're going to be able to monitor the traffic that's coming in from your SEO. your paid Google ads, your social media, and all your other different channels.
Can you talk about the social media section for a little while? Because I know that, a lot of people sign up for all the different social media sites and are trying to figure out what makes sense for their business. And will this in Google Analytics let you kind of know your true traffic from those areas or to those areas?
Yes, I'm going to switch back over to Handy Andy.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll actually tell you which platforms you get the most traffic from. With Handy Andy, we don't have a Twitter, we don't have a Pinterest, and Facebook is really where we get most of. If we do get traffic from social, that's where it's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And do you have to do anything to set that part of it up, or just as long as you're putting in your Google Analytic information?
Because it tracks the referring domain.
Okay.
So it can see that the traffic came from Facebook.
Gotcha.
And that's specifically from the, when someone goes to your profile and clicks, like this one, the URL, that's where they went to my business page and clicked on visit website.
Your business page on Facebook and said visit website. So I just want to, just for clarification purposes, this is tracking the traffic to your website from social media, not
correct.
This is the traffic you're getting on social media. I just want to make that clear.
Yes, very clear. Analytics doesn't track your engagement on social media. This is specifically for your website and your search engine performance.
Mm-hmm.
And also, one of the interesting things is Google considers Yelp to be social media.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. I consider them to be a scam, but that's personal preference. Look, I used to, I was an agency partner with Yelp, and it was a complete nightmare offering those services to business owners. So, however, some business owners would do really well on it, but for the majority of them, Google just ended up being a way better option for them, and also social campaigns as well. They tend to outperform Yelp campaigns. So, but yeah, it'll track all the different sources that you have. If you use Instagram a lot, Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, not really good sources for this specific business. I'm a big fan of focusing on, the 80-20 rule. Focus on the 20% that's going to get you 80% of your results. And that's why we don't really have those other social profiles, and there's a lot of other stuff we haven't set up for this specific business because we haven't needed to.
Yeah, to me, it makes sense for a handy, a handy repair type of situation. I would imagine that Facebook would be the winning network just because of the nature of how people communicate on that network. Instagram is more visual. So unless you're, building stuff and, making furniture and doing stuff like that on a regular basis.
like you said, kitchen remodeling, or if you sell swimming pools, or
because it's the visual attraction of the end result that they're seeing. Nobody really wants to see a garbage disposal.
No, they just want to find somebody on Google that's going to come out and fix it.
Exactly. Totally get that.
I'm going to go over here to the referral traffic. Referral traffic comes from whenever someone whenever you're referred by someone, this can be Facebook, this can be other different websites that have cited you. Um, uh, One that we popped up for on here is there's a local real estate company in town that uses us quite a bit, and they
Mm-hmm.
used us so much that they listed us as a approved vendor on their website.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, it's fantastic. The SEO juice that you get from that is just
Yeah.
phenomenal, because they talk about homes, and
Mm-hmm.
my website talks about home improvement and home repair. So um, so yeah, so that's where the referral sources come in. It helps you understand what different websites, what different, or where are you getting your traffic coming in from, some of those citations that you have out on the internet.
Gotcha.
Um, and then also on analytics, if you have Google Ads running, you can actually look at your campaigns and keyword search queries. You can look at all your Google Ads information in here. So if you have one campaign that you're managing, and you're just real quickly trying to go in Google Analytics and spend time looking at the data, you can easily go in here and check your campaigns, or check your tree maps, which your tree maps are just the flow that people have through your website. And I'll actually, under behavior, is where you can actually see the flow of how people are going through your website. So here's another cool tool that you have on Google Analytics. You can see how do people travel through your website. So the landing page, or the home page, they'll come, they'll come here, and they'll either go to garbage disposal services or handyman services. And then, first interaction, second interaction, and let me open this up a little bit more. Third interaction. So you can actually see how people have moved through your website.
That's
So in
nice.
this situation, someone came to the homepage, then they went to the contact page, then they went back to the homepage, and they went to the contact page. Whereas this person came right to our website from garbage disposal services, and then they dropped off.
So the red is they dropped off is that what that red means? That's
correct.
Okay.
And they'll even tell you how much of your total traffic those drop-offs make up. So.
Okay.
And again, Dana, there is so much information out there that you can explore when it comes to Google Analytics.
Mm-hmm.
The big thing is back to what I said before. Find out what those 5 to 10 metrics are that you really need to look at to determine what's success for you.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm talking with the law firm, it's real simple. Before, when I would manage accounts, I would come out, or I would send people a 5-page report showing them all their traffic. Well, most people don't want to see that, especially business owners.
Mm-hmm.
They want to see how many leads.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're like, how many leads did I get? So
Mm-hmm.
what I show them, hey, this is how much your Google ad campaign cost, and this is how many conversions you got. And your cost per click, we're getting that down as well. So, and because of that, your cost per conversion is going down.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all good metrics that they want to hear and that they need to hear.
Right.
Because they want to know how many leads did I get and where is it coming from. That's all important information. If you focus on that information, you're going to be able to spend your time in Google Analytics, or really any tool that's out there, more effectively.
Right.
Because all these tools offer all this functionality and different um, different things you can do with it. But if you can take one tool and use one part of it to grow your business exponentially, then that's what you need to do.
Yeah.
And you can learn the rest as you go, or pay someone else to set it up for you. But just focus on the part of the tool that's going to give you the most results.
Yeah. And I mean, I think specifically for new side hustlers, right? If they're new to setting up a website or just new to business in general, being able to just get people to the website. And I think what you've shown today is really going to help with that. Understand that traffic, understand how can I get more people, beefing up your SEO. I mean, I think that this is really helpful. And especially this right here with the behavior of the people coming to your website, seeing where they're dropping off and where you may need to beef up a page or change how you are verbalizing what you're doing on that page, or whatever that is. I think that'll be helpful. Definitely.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, if this is starting to become overwhelming and you've got a side hustle and you're bringing in traffic from other sources, you know, this isn't that important. At the end of the day, if you're getting leads and you're generating revenue, it's important. But if you're realizing that I need to grow this, and I need
Mm-hmm.
to and I'm wanting to scale, and I'm wanting to expand, and I'm wanting to go from having a side hustle to having a legitimate business.
Full-time business. Yeah.
Right. The difference between a business and a job you own is, do you have processes? Can you remove yourself out of the
Out of the
the business?
day-to-day operations. Yes. Most
So
definitely.
doing this allows you, this is one of those things you add on as you go,
Mm-hmm.
but it's definitely going to give you the data that you need to help with scaling.
Now, do you take information off of Google Analytics and save it some off site, or do you just go in here periodically from a maintenance standpoint of just looking at your numbers? How do you typically do that?
So I have other tools that I use. One of the tools that I'm a big advocate of is and this is a little nerdy tool. It's called Data Studio. It's actually a free tool that Google offers, and it allows you to put all your information into customized dashboards.
Wonderful. First of all, Jared, we love free tools. Let me just say that.
Well, that's the great thing about, and I'm always a big fan that if you're trying to set up a business email, the best thing you can do is set up a G Suite account, because it makes it to where all this information is branded with your email. It's all connected. You can easily switch back and forth between your Gmail and your your all your Google apps. So your Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google
Right.
Drive, Google Slides. I'm a huge proponent of the Google suite of apps that they offer.
I just wish they had a better email UI. That's my only
You,
negative.
you don't like Gmail?
No, I cannot stand Gmail's UI. Cannot stand it.
So this is Google Data Studio. So you can customize this to where it'll show, instead of showing countries, it'll show cities. It can show states. It can show counties. It'll break down channels, engagement, and of course you have to make sure that all this information is in here accurately. But so let's actually go into the back end, where I can show you what it looks like when you're editing it. So before I show you this, there are tons of free templates. So you don't have to go in here and actually custom build all these dashboards. That can really, that's going to give you analysis paralysis and is going to stop you. I believe with this specific dashboard, I've got some other customer dashboards that I don't want to get into showing just because that's their private information.
Right.
But when I go in there and set it up for a customer, I will actually make it to where I'll change out colors, I'll add logos. You can do all that in here. And look, they've even got different themes you can use. So if you want to make it dark, or you can add data, you can add a chart. So they've got all different data sources that you can add from. You can even add from Google Sheets.
That's nice. You can put sheets in. That's nice.
All these different sources, surveys, Search Console, YouTube. So Dashboard or Data Studio is a great tool if you're trying to visualize all of your data in one place. And putting your Google Analytics data in here, and also your Google Ads data in here, it just makes it easier. So when I'm sitting in front of a customer, I don't even have to crack open a laptop. I can walk into, if it's an in-person meeting, I can do that with an iPad and show them the dashboard and give them all the information they need. So, if you're sitting at home and you don't have your laptop open and you want to look at your data on the couch, you can pull it up on an iPad or a phone and easily see your dashboard of everything that's working.
That's really
I'd
nice.
probably recommend that you do it on a tablet versus a phone, because this would be hard to read on a phone. But also you can share this information and give specific access to people that see it.
Oh, okay. It's
So,
shareable. Oh, that's good.
Add people, and then you can say they can edit, they can view. You can even make it to where you can make it to where that when they log in, they see certain dates, and you can make it to where they can change those dates, or they cannot change those dates. So if you have some data that you're trying to share, maybe you've got a side hustle or a business and you've got a partner and they're not as savvy as you when it comes to setting these things up, and you just want a way to visualize the data for them so that way they can have a good snapshot of how everything's working. You can show them this, and this just makes it to where you can see everything in one place, and it takes some a little bit of time to set it up, but once you set it up, it's a great tool to visualize that data moving forward.
Yeah, I can see that. Like literally I had gone through and was downloading the grids. I'm like, oh, this would save a lot of time from having to do that, just to have that. Is this printable?
1 second, I think. For some reason, Dana, I can't hear you.
Oh, you can't hear me?
I can tell by your smile that you can hear me, though. Let me pull up Zoom here.
Did your headset lose its battery? Well, no, because I can hear you. That makes sense. Let's see. You still can't hear me? No.
Okay.
You can hear me now?
Dana, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
There's not any feedback, is there?
No, there's not.
Okay, good. That was weird. It just cut out for a second. So, so yeah, that's some of that's one of the tools that I use to help with visualizing the data. So that way you don't have to spend all your time on this back end clicking through things. If you set up the data correctly, and again, when you go to Data Studio to set this up, I'll go back to the main homepage of Data Studio. It has pre-approved templates in here. So they've got an e-commerce, pay-per-click, YouTube channel report, and there's even more. So you can go in here and really just nerd out on creating dashboards and visualizing your data. And they make it pretty easy when you use one of these templates.
Mm-hmm.
You really just have to go and tell it what data you want it to look at, and it'll pull all that data for you. So that way you don't have to, if you're trying to generate reports for someone, or again, you're trying to show a business partner or maybe an investor, this is good information to have for them, because especially if you're trying to get funding or trying to sell the business, you can actually show, like with my business, Handy Andy, if I wanted to sell it, I could actually say, hey, we get all this organic traffic coming in, and we've got a lot of brand and name recognition. And that's something that's extremely valuable that'll come into play when you're trying to do a business valuation. So
yeah, no, I totally just got excited because I didn't know about Data Studio, and like right before the sound cut out, I was telling you that I go into Google Analytics and pull down, like literally will download the data out of there on a monthly basis, just trying to capture it. And so, just seeing this, that's got me really excited.
That's a lot of work.
Yes. Hence why I'm so excited.
How long does that take you?
Oh, I don't even know, because I mean, it's like I would go months without doing it, and then I have to go back and backtrack because I'm like, I don't have time to do this. Like, this is not a priority, but you want to capture that information so that you can analyze it. But at the same time, I'm like, just to sit here and go through all of this is laborious. So yeah, I think this is going to be really nice. Do you know if that report is printable?
Oh, yes.
So yeah.
I'll pull it up.
Yeah, you just made my whole year, Jared.
Well, this is all stuff that, so here, I'll go in here and should have a print section.
Yeah, I saw the file and all of that up there. So I assumed it was, but.
Let me get that full screen.
It's like you were in download
so
report.
You can download the report.
Yeah, right. That's perfect.
And you can, however you want to do that, you can download it as a PDF and then print it.
That's fabulous. Yeah.
I've never printed it before, so that's why I didn't know.
Yeah. Because I mean, when you're looking at the end of the year, what, all the different things that you've done in your business and how it's affected your business and what you want to plan for the next year, I think that's important to really look at your analytics and really break it down. And so just being able to sit, like I said, print it out or download it and go, not be online, just looking at that data, I think that's valuable.
Wow. Every year. I have to look at these like every month. And then I have to go really in depth every quarter to provide technical analysis for all my clients. So.
Yeah. And I mean, that is the best route, right? So, but some of our side hustlers, they're very new. And so they're overwhelmed with the amount of stuff that they're doing. And so just being able to say, okay, what are we going to really plan out for the next year? And it's usually something that's going to last a couple of months, maybe quarterly, but just being able to go back and look holistically at the year is helpful. And hopefully some of our customers really build up to the quarterly or, like you said, monthly changes in their business, but a lot of them aren't even there yet. So
as being someone who does this professionally,
Mm-hmm.
we'll look at it monthly, and we'll try to look for certain issues that pop up. We look at it monthly just to make sure that things are good. However, quarterly is when we really do our deep dive, and when we drive the strategy for the remaining, for that quarter.
For the next quarter. Mm-hmm.
Correct. So
Yeah. Because you can really see if you have, like, I was about to say, well, it wasn't my analytics. I was looking at link breaks, but that was a different page. But yeah, I can see we're looking at the traffic trends and what your SEO things that are hitting and what you're putting out, how that's affecting what you're doing on a regular basis. Is there anything else that a new entrepreneur should be looking at more frequently for mistakes, or to help catch some things that they wouldn't normally know about without looking at the analytics?
if you're not really, the analytics are going to allow you to see how you're showing up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's really going to go into a lot of detail. Um, the only thing I could think of that would help someone is if they are pulling data from other locations and
Mm-hmm.
using a tool like Data Studio. Um, Zapier offers a lot of free, what they call zaps,
Mm-hmm.
or they'll connect your data from an Excel spreadsheet or some other platform and zap
Right.
it into a place like Data Studio. So just getting set up and using all this data automation tool, the data automation tools that we have available.
Mm-hmm.
Data is now it's the oil of today's age.
Yeah.
Oil used to be the big hot commodity. Well, now it's data.
It's data, and there's so much data coming from so many different places, and just knowing how to navigate that, I think, is really important. And so you mentioned that for your business, for the things that you do on a regular basis, I would assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, that your customer, it would be more the service industry that is kind of at that second tier of their business, not necessarily a beginner. Do you work with beginners?
So we work with startup businesses. It's more, whenever you're working with an agency
Mm-hmm.
or you're working with someone who's marketing for you, you need to answer certain questions about your business, such as what's your why, what's your mission
Mm-hmm.
statement.
Mm-hmm.
You need to know your numbers so that way you know what success looks like.
Right.
Whenever I work with businesses, and it didn't matter if they were new or established businesses, the ones that were extremely unsuccessful were the ones that didn't know their numbers. They
Mm-hmm.
didn't know how many calls they get in a month, or the people that don't track it are the ones that would constantly complain about results. And then
Yes.
you would actually have to show them, oh, so let's see, you received 40 phone calls last month, and we recorded those phone calls, and they were legitimate leads.
But you fell down on the
Did you not
processing
close
after
them?
you got the leads. Yeah. Yeah. The
Or
process. It goes back to, what are you doing with what you're getting and tracking it all the way through.
And another issue I would run into is where people would complain that I'm not getting enough leads. And then we would go back, and 60 to 70% of their calls went unanswered. Or
Mm.
when they did answer and we recorded those calls, they were rude to the customer. Like one time, I remember I had to have a conversation with a gentleman who owned 3 collision repair shops,
Mm-hmm.
and in one of the shops, his wife had to answer the phones for like a week, and I listened to those calls, and I had to tell this man that, hey, you need to either get your wife off the phone, or you need to tell her to be nicer to customers.
Yeah. And people don't realize like those little things that I call those gaps in your business. They're leaks in your business because ultimately you're thinking, okay, I'm paying all this money for advertising. I'm doing all this marketing. I'm putting all this effort in, but then on the back end, you're not ready because either your customer service isn't there or you got some leak in your business that isn't allowing them to follow all the way through with their process. And the process is broken. And so you're putting, why put all that effort in if you on the back end are just going to say, it's not me. It's like hot potato, right? It's not me.
Or better yet, it's like you're, if you're going to fill a bucket up with water and it's got a hole in the bottom of it,
Exactly.
that's not really doing any good.
What's the point, right?
Right, right.
What are you doing here? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. This has
So, I
been
mean,
so good.
other than that, and, just being able to, there's so many tools out there. So many tools out there. And I mean, I would almost have to say that part of my job is just, I have to devote time every week just to looking at new tools that have been recommended to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's important,
Yeah.
sitting through, there's one, I sat through a demo for one platform that takes care of everything for you. And it's a very affordable cost, and it's more built for marketing agencies.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's still, a sizable investment. It's like 2,500 upfront, and then 600 per month, and that covers you and yourself and three other clients. So, it's something that you don't just want to make a snap decision and say yes, let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to dive in. You have to see, is this going to make sense for me?
Yeah.
That's almost a full-time job in
It
itself.
takes so much time to do that. And really, I tell my clients all the time and our listeners all the time is you have to really look at what your business needs at the moment and compare, because a lot of times what I hear is specifically in groups, like, because we met in Connect Nashville, and people will say, well, do you know, what tool do you use for XYZ? And it's like, okay, I need to know what you're doing. I can't just tell you what I'm using because my use case is completely different than yours. And so it's not going to make sense for you to spend this money on this tool that doesn't meet your needs, or it's
Hmm.
way more tool than you ever need. You could use the free tool and be perfectly fine. And so that's, I tell the guys all the time, you've got to really break it down and figure out what your requirements are before you go trying to look for tools, and understanding the tools too and how they're going to meet those needs is huge.
So there's a great book that I'm just about finished with. It's called Deep Work by Cal Newport.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things he talks about is the farmer's approach to selecting new tools. He talks about a farmer who he could purchase a hay baler, excuse me, and bale his own hay to feed his livestock. Well, if you look at what's the cost in buying it, keeping it up,
Mm-hmm.
running the hail baler, how is it going to affect, and at the end of the day, his ultimate, KPI is the fertility of his soil. So what is raising his own hay going to cost him when it comes to the fertility of his own soil?
Exactly. What's the return on investment of that endeavor?
And if hay is so stinking cheap, why don't you just buy it?
Just buy it.
Right. It's like we use a tool for cleaning up listings, and you can actually go in and manually create new listings like on Yelp and Foursquare and Apple Maps and Bing and
Mm-hmm.
all these other places. Or you can pay a data aggregator to do it and just manage the campaign and make sure that everything's set up properly
Right.
and pay tools. That makes more sense in that situation, to buy that tool and pay them to take care of all those citations for you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, rather than
The
myself
amount
or
of time that it's taken you from something else that's so much more valuable. Your time is so much more valuable to put towards something else than it costs to pay somebody to do that other work for you. And that's is really getting down to looking at the value, the return on investment of everything that you're doing, and where you're putting your dollars, what you're putting your dollars behind, right? And what you're putting your sweat equity behind. And especially as a side
Right.
hustle, that's huge. That
Oh,
is so huge.
your time is the most valuable asset that you
Mm-hmm.
have.
Mm-hmm.
We can always make more money. We can't make more time.
Right.
And if you spend all this time trying to do a specific process, that's going to wear down your mental capabilities and your effectiveness when it comes to the rest of your time.
Yeah.
So yeah, and but at the end of the day, you also don't want to sit here and pay for 20 different tools that you don't use, um,
Mm-hmm.
because that's happened to me before. I've
Yeah.
signed up for this and this, and there's $10 here, there's 50 here, there's 100 here,
And when
and
you went back
eventually,
and you were like, wait a second.
like, how am I spending $1,000 and not using anything? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, yeah, most definitely happens all the time, all the time. Well, Jared,
So,
this has been fabulous, fabulous. Thank you so much for taking the time out and being so diligent in getting all of this great value to the listeners.
well, it's been my pleasure. This is something that I spend a lot of time in Google Analytics and managing digital marketing campaigns, and helping businesses with their marketing strategy. And so I really appreciate the opportunity to share this information with you and your audience.
Most definitely. Now, if someone wants your help in marketing or wants you to teach them some more stuff or get more in touch with you, or maybe they need a handyman in Nashville, how do they get in touch with you?
Well, if they need a handyman, most of my operations with my maintenance business are, uh, I don't do a lot of those operations. I have a business partner, and we have crews that go out and do that work. So you'll just visit handyandyrepair.com to schedule an appointment. However, if someone more importantly is looking for marketing strategy and help with their digital marketing campaigns, um, I work for Minuteman Press. I'm a senior marketing strategist for them. And so if you go to NashvillePrinting.com and reach out to us. Also, if you look for Jared DeValk, you'll see my smiling face. I was told I look like Flynn Rider. So if you can find the guy that looks like Flynn Rider, and also when you look me up, you might also find my modeling pictures from a while back. So, but yeah, reaching out to Minuteman Press is probably the best way. And we can not only help with the marketing strategy and the digital marketing. We have a full print shop as well that can help with vehicle graphics and signage, and then anything printed.
Fabulous, fabulous. Guys, I will put Jared's information in the show notes if you are interested in reaching out to him as well. Jared, it has been a pleasure speaking with you today.
Thank you, Dana.